What is up, ladies and gents? Noah here, and welcome to the first GTFO gameplay where I'm the one actually controlling the player character. We just had the GTFO alpha drop. This was pretty exciting. It was far faster than I anticipated. This was a single mission being playable over 24 hours. I didn't have as much time with it as I would have liked. Unfortunately, I've not actually managed to complete this mission. It is tough. Difficulty is a pretty big thing we saw in this mission. It's hard. It's impossible as far as I can tell to solo. Co-op is, as we kind of worried, going to be a necessity. But it is a ton of fun. I really can't complain. I, like I said, would like more time with it, and fortunately my prayers have been answered as we are getting the alpha dropping back again here on the 31st of October, I think, for the weekend. Actually, this time we'll have some more time to play through it, maybe with some polish and bug fixes. But this is just my first impressions. It's going to be a rambly sort of video as I run through what I feel, what I've seen in the game. Maybe encourage you guys to become ambassadors and give it a go. I have a few keys of my own as well, actually, to give away if you guys are interested in the alpha. Like I say, it's at this point a single mission. We may well get more over the weekend. I don't know. At this stage, it is a debug sort of mission we're on. But surprisingly, the game was not overly buggy. I did run into a few. One big issue was that I'm actually in a 4-man here, but one of them is inexplicably invisible. That was a little bit of a strange bug. There was also an issue with ammo and med packs not being utilized on your teammates, even though you used them, and that would actually consume them, which was pretty irritating. And one of the bug I ran into, and I think this was more of a weird latency issue, was that my special weapon didn't fire. It made the sound of firing, but no bullets came out. So those were all slight frustrations, minor frustrations in what was actually a really fun 24 hours. And I was pretty impressed, to be honest. I thought it would be way buggier. I thought there'd be things that actually prevented me from playing and enjoying the game, and that genuinely wasn't the case. As I just briefly touched on, the game is hard. You have to play it 4-player. And if you guys are interested in doing that and maybe don't have 3 friends who are really keen on playing the game, I could not emphasize more that Discord is the place to go. That's where I actually found this group to play with. None of my friends happened to be online at the time. Needed to record some gameplay and knew I wouldn't be able to solo it. So I found some really nice guys online, and this was the first we actually got. We actually got about 80% through this mission. Like I say, it's tough. I feel qualified to give some first impressions because I've repeated it many times over those 24 hours, but I still didn't have enough time to actually get it done, if that's indicative at all of how difficult it is. So I'm not going to spend a really long time going through every facet of the game. You guys can see that for yourselves, hopefully from the gameplay, and hopefully also from playing it at this weekend event. But I will just run you through the gameplay and maybe some technical things. I'll start off with the technical issues I ran into. The game ran okay. I had a few stutters. I had a few actual freezes, which were not the best. That might have had something more to do with my laptop and the recording software I was using. So generally, I think for a game in such an early stage, it's stable and it runs fairly well. Obviously, importantly, this is not something new. We've already seen that with other gameplay footage. The visuals of the game's all about atmosphere. It doesn't look amazing. It doesn't look the worst either, but it's all about atmosphere. It's about character design, level design, and feel. Darkness is a big thing. There's no brightness slider, and I'm such a cheat. Whenever a game is dark, I really like to slam the brightness up and not have to strain my eyes, but this game is more about light management. You know, you have glow sticks, you have torches, long-range torches, and knowing when to turn them on and off is a really important facet of stealth in this game, and it adds to the atmosphere. It really saves the game. It's sort of slightly ugly sins. You know, the game being so dark, you can't really see that it doesn't look amazing. And like I said, atmosphere is the name of the game, and darkness and environment really blends into gameplay and the atmosphere pretty seamlessly, I would say. And so, from a visual standpoint, I was impressed. You know, the game was more of a horror game than I expected. The torch and lighting definitely adds to that, but also the sound effects are amazing. Enemy design is nasty. It's terrifying. And from at least my early experiences with it, I was surprisingly spooked. I thought, despite it being a horror game, it wouldn't have that feel. Co-op games often struggle to be scary, but this one, my very first playthrough I was playing through with one other guy, we alerted the horde, And my heart rate definitely shot up. And that's exactly what you want to see a game, even in this early alpha stage, doing. So, GTFO ticks all the boxes on that front. Let's move on to have a quick talk about the gameplay. I'd say, most importantly, is the stealth gameplay. You do maybe 75% stealth, 25% allowed. The stealth has been pulled off well. It's organic, I would say. No bars over enemy heads, you just have to watch for the environment, you have to watch for their heartbeats. I think that's a cool system. I've had quite a few frustrating moments where I've alerted the enemies, I think, unfairly. Consistency is something that's lacking as far as enemy behavior is concerned, which can lead to frustration, but at the same time, it does, further stress that this is all about using your wits and not just, following mechanics rigidly as Payday 2 stealth essentially functions. So yeah, it straddles that line. Like I say, early alpha, it's difficult to go into too much detail about it. For all I know, the alerts could actually be slight glitches or bugs, but I have had moments where I've hit an enemy right next to another enemy, it's not batting an eyelid, and then other times I've hit one and across the map they've somehow noticed me. So consistency is a slight frustration, but not something I'm hugely worried about moving on into the future. The randomization, of the levels makes a big difference to stealth. It really does mean that you have to pay attention to your bio-tracker, which is your de facto stealth saver, I would say. But, even knowing where the enemies are, I was actually a little bit more tense when I was using the bio-tracker than when I was just being told there's enemies around. Sound design is also really important for stealth, and that's been pulled off really well, from the dripping of water making you think that there's an enemy walking behind you, to just hearing the weird clicking noises. I'd say the enemies are very The Last of Us feeling. I think that would be a fair comparison to make. I don't know whether that was something that the guys at 10 Chambers were going for, but there's definitely a uniqueness to them. Stealth is obviously, if you want to kill enemies, the only way to do it is with melee, because there's no silencers. I mean, someone pointed out to me pretty intelligently that silencers wouldn't make a jot of difference, seeing as how the enemies don't have ears and seem to rely purely on movement or light. That's, as I mentioned, lighting and darkness. Enemies can be drawn to your torch in stealth, and that adds a ton of suspense. You turn the torch on to actually see where you're going, and suddenly you see a red heartbeat across the room and realize, oh god, I've alerted him by pointing my torch at him. I think that's cool. I think that works out really very well. It was a surprise addition because I thought only movement would alert enemies, and so it gave me a shock the first time I did that. As I just touched on, movement is the big thing you want to look out for in stealth. Moving slowly is important, moving very carefully when you see the red heartbeat. I was pretty impressed by the fact that even when I was playing with an American guy, the desync wasn't too bad, and we wouldn't accidentally alert, as you'd often see in Payday, where enemies' notice bars get desynced out of place. That was pretty good. I think that's probably more of a technical point to mention, but I had no failed stealth attempts that were just frustratingly caused by, bad internet or latency. So that was good to see. Overall, I found the stealth to be probably the most tense, atmospheric, and interesting sections in the levels. There is a special enemy called the Scout, who is awesome. When you see him walking around, he's really, really funny, but at the same time terrifying. He sends out tendrils, we saw it in the IGN gameplay, and he can spot you out from a distance. He's essentially a visual monitor, as opposed to just being, reliant on motion. And my top tip for you guys is take these guys out, even if it means alerting an entire room. It's all about knowing when to go loud. I'd say that is the whole crux of stealth. It's stealthing for as long as possible and not overdoing it. Because if you overdo it, you end up alerting a horde at a time when you're not prepared. But if you set up some mines or some seafoam on doors and then take out, say, a scout, preventing them from alerting enemies outside of the area, you can actually do what I'd call sort of controlled loud sections, and that's what it's all about. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's been pulled off really well, and it's something to get used to as someone coming from other co-op games. The scouts, like I say, top tip is take them out as immediately. When they spot you, they glow green, they become damage immune, and this process can't be stopped. And like I say, they call enemies from well outside the room. As far as I can tell, they may well spawn enemies in as well. So that is what you want to avoid, pretty much, I would suggest, at all costs. So I think that does it for stealth. Quickly touching on loud. Loud is more so than anything about the weapons you get to use. These are all really weighty. They feel great. I enjoyed the pistol, the SMG, and the assault rifle. And in the special slot, I thought the revolver was amazing. Had great feel, tons of damage, blows limbs off. Exactly what you'd like from a game like this. The shotgun's pretty nice as well. The sniper is a necessity. Bring that along to take out scouts. So the weapon variety felt okay. We obviously can't choose weapons at this point outside of those sort of base ones. I'm imagining once we have access to a larger portion of the game, we may well see some customization, some more weapons in class. At this point, like I say, it's pretty bare bones, which I hope is improved upon, but I'm really not worrying at this stage. And the weight and feel, like I said, was pretty awesome. Loud is probably, when you do go loud, it's probably when the game is at its buggiest. Range attacks are frustrating. They flinch you a little bit more than I'd like them to. They can be dodged, but at the same time they seem to have really weird hitboxes. Crawler enemies get up on you, do exactly what they are meant to, but sometimes they can sort of glitch under your feet, glitch into walls, and that runs into some frustration. As you can tell, loud is the part of the game I've probably had the most issues with, but I've still enjoyed it. Especially when playing in a full team and being coordinated, setting up sentry guns, setting up your defensive utilities, bio-tracker, scanning them. That makes it so much easier. It means you don't need lights on because you can just shoot at the red dots. That stuff is unique. It's pulled off really well. It's got that great co-op feel to it. But like I say, I've just ran into some slight issues with bugginess. Ragdolls are still a little bit strange. They seem to run at an odd frame rate, like I mentioned in the IGN trailer. So I haven't had as much fun with loud as I have with stealth, but I still don't think it's a really weak part of the game, just something that they may want to work on in the future. And all the groundwork is there. You know, it's ready to be a fun horde survival mode when you do go loud. It just needs cleaning up. So that's, you know, the two primary things we see as far as gameplay is concerned in games, such as this. You know, Payday is just all about completing objectives and doing so either in stealth or in loud. But this game goes a little bit further. Exploration is a big deal. Searching out ammo packs, searching out med kits are essential to keep you alive. You don't start in with full ammo. It has more of a survival feel to it. You pick up useful utilities like the sea foam grenades, like the fog cleaners. So that's been really good. If you like exploration, this game is for you, I would say. You know, even if you're not just out for the co-op genre and you're not looking for loud, fast-paced action, you're just interested in exploring pretty cool and, as I've mentioned, atmospheric environments, this game pulls it off well. Objectives are basically done through the computer system, which, as I feared, may get old fast, but actually at this point I've found to be awesome. You can use it to search out things in rooms. It tells you the location of the objectives you're seeking. It feels pretty organic, and instead of being push buttons, actually involves you typing things in, communicating, making use of notes and the map. I love that. That goes way beyond what we've seen in this sort of game before, and may well lead itself to more of a puzzly environment when we get to later missions. At this point, like I say, things aren't fully randomized. It's a little bit repetitive, so the computer system gets old faster than I'm hoping it will. But it, as I've said, you know, same with gameplay. All the groundwork is there for it to be pretty damn awesome. We'll just have to see more on some more varied missions. I did briefly touch on enemies with the scout, but the other special enemy is just the big guy, the brute, the bruiser, whatever you want to call him. He hits you hard as hell. Watch out for him. You can basically decapitate him, in fact blow off half of his body, and he will continue to fight, firing projectiles out of his spine. He's nasty, does a lot of damage, but can be dealt with pretty easily if the team groups up, focus fires, use sea foam grenades, for example, to actually freeze them and destroy them like that. They add a little bit of extra challenge, and the design of them is excellent, really creepy. Like I say, The Last of Us is probably the game closest in terms of enemy design, but these guys are unique in their own way. I love the way they're sort of bloated, they're clearly humanoid, they're almost certainly ex-humans, and they're spooky. They've pulled off the creepy factor, and they've also pulled off the functional enemy in a gunfight factor. I just like to see the ranged attacks become a little bit clearer and a little less like strangely curving balls of light flying at me. That's my one small frustration with the enemies. I've got just a small set of notes here, and the next point I wanted to mention was horror elements. I've already basically done that. The game is scary. Way scarier than I thought it possibly could be. It relies on its lighting system for that. So the lack of brightness slider, I think, is hugely in its favor at this point. I imagine when the game comes out there will be brightness, but hopefully we'll be encouraged to keep it on the low down, because that's what creates the environment of wonderful atmosphere and surprising scares. My next point is issues and worries, which honestly I don't have too many. The few I have mentioned as I've ran through have pretty much all been caveats to the game is great, but obviously it's in a very early state. I'm glad we're seeing it in early state. We're getting to play it completely for free to see if it's going to be worth a purchase when it comes out. I have very, very few complaints. The 10 Chambers guys seem really behind their game at this point, and again, we'll know more when we get to play it again this coming weekend, but at this point, I'm not worried about much at all. So then, guys, I'd say that's done it. This has been the most rambly video I've made in a very long time. I've stayed completely off a script. So hopefully you've been able to follow it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the beta, or the alpha I should say, if you've played it. If not, please join the Ambassador program. I implore you, give it a go. Join the Discord, play with randoms, play with friends. It's going to be a ton of fun no matter how you do it. There's a really active, interested community out there for this game already, which I'm over the moon about. I think most people that I've spoken to have really enjoyed this alpha, even with the issues, even with the sameness, even though we're basically glorified debuggers. It's been great having some time with the game. The feel of it is what I would say is, the first sign of a good game, and all the feels are wonderful. I've got a friend who's pretty skeptical about these sorts of games. He doesn't enjoy Payday, he doesn't enjoy that sort of thing. But from what he said, he's having fun with it. And I'd say that is mostly because, like I say, the feel, the atmosphere, the environment, the gameplay loop is varied enough. It's all coming up pretty good, in my opinion. As I say, get involved as best you can. Keep an eye out on my Twitch. I'm hopefully going to be streaming it this weekend, instead of just recording some gameplay, and maybe I'll actually get to the end of the mission. Maybe they'll tone down the difficulty, we will see. I'm interested actually to see whether we get some difficulty settings once the game comes to full release. But I want a challenge, and that's exactly what this is at this point. Game feels fantastic, it's well worth a try. I find it difficult to close out videos when I'm not following a script, so let's get it done. Thanks for watching, ladies and gents. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully. Maybe a Payday video coming up this week.